Paul Finebaum is not happy with Alabama. Alabama is apparently going to cancel the game between Ohio State and Alabama coming up, or the games between them in 2027 and 2028. Now, if you recall, about a week or two, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came on here. I think Zach was on vacation at the time. I came on here and talked about a report from Letterman Row at On Three about how Ohio State was going to cancel those two games and the Georgia game. Now you have Paul Finebaum coming out and saying that it sounds like Alabama might be the one canceling this. So if we're putting two and two together here, sounds like it might be more of a mutual thing, but definitely an interesting situation here for Alabama to not be trying to put this on Ohio State or anything like this, but apparently they are both agreeing to something like this. I think it stinks for college football. I lament it, but at the same time, I also understand it. I don't know if you saw the interview of Kirk Cignetti on the triple option there, Zach, but even Urban Meyer said that he kind of changed his opinion after talking to Kirk Cignetti about it, because Kirk Cignetti just point blank told him the Big Ten is better than it was before. Why do I need to play these big out of conference games when I already have a really tough conference to go play against? And, while I don't like it, I do understand it. Obviously, Paul Finebaum doesn't like it, and I think you're going to say you don't like it too. But do you understand? I guess we'll start with why you don't like it, and then let us know, do you understand it, or do you just completely disagree with it?
So, I mean, there's a difference between understanding and agreement.
Yeah.
So I understand it, but I cannot be intellectually consistent if I say that I agree with Cignetti on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because what have we railed against the SEC for the past bajillion years? Them saying our conference is better, and so we don't need to play anybody out of conference because Mississippi State is like playing Ohio State, right? That's some of the nonsense that we've heard, that we were still hearing this past season.
Yes.
Maybe not Mississippi State and Ohio State, but Vandy versus Vandy could be like Oregon or something. Yeah, okay. But the thing I think that I hate about it is, in a sense, it's kind of the same hubris that the SEC was playing with a little bit. Now, I'm not accusing Kirk Cignetti of hubris, but I'm just saying it's the same. They're using the same shtick now, which, in a sense, like the SEC was entitled to a little bit because of their dominance in the 2010s and late aughts, early 2010s. Like, they were entitled to it. The Big Ten's entitled to it a little bit now too. I get that. Totally agree with it. I totally agree with that sentiment, but I do not agree with this at all. Whether it's Ohio State or Alabama, I understand it, but if you want the sport to continue to evolve for good, then be the big boys that you are, Alabama and Ohio State. Put your money where your mouth is, and realize that at some point the playoff's going to expand anyway, and it's not going to hurt you. Like,
yeah, I mean, you're taking a gamble on that, right? To say, oh, we think the playoffs is going to expand, but at the same time, how long did it take it for it to expand from 4 to 12? It took like 12 years, didn't it? Now, albeit the pressure was not as great at the beginning of the 14 playoffs as it is here, so it's not a direct comparison. I understand what you're saying, but I also think that right now, with the Big Ten and the SEC at odds and not being able to get along at all, it seems like I do think there is an aspect of this that's like, we just got to do what we got to do in the short term for now and hope for the best. If anything, it stinks because we have to schedule these games 5-6 years out. Like, can't we just be like college basketball and schedule it in the off season? Why aren't we doing that? Or schedule it the season before or something. Like, why aren't we doing that? That would be so much better, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Trojan Fight brings up that rumors are that it won't be the last game that Alabama cancels, as that it's upcoming in a few years. And then he points out that in 2029, Alabama is scheduled to play Notre Dame and Oklahoma State, followed by Notre Dame and Georgia Tech in 2030. I'll let you guys decide for yourselves which games are likely to be canceled.
I mean,
Yes.
I mean, they lost to a bad Florida State team, so they better cancel Oklahoma State and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, yeah. I I think that this would be so. I mean, I'm not trying to say I told you so, and I know that there's not a whole lot of people in the comments that disagreed with me on this, so it's not even like a I told you so. But I do think if we had automatic bids for conferences, this wouldn't be happening.
Yep,
I think if we had automatic bids where you earn it in your conference, then teams would be more likely to say, okay, well, we're going to need that extra bump if we want to make the at large if our conference doesn't go our way. So let's go schedule somebody tough in the out of conference. Let's go schedule a team that might be up there with us. And if we beat them, we can be above it. And that also comes back to the committee honoring head to heads, right? That was one of my biggest things on like why out of conference games aren't going to matter if you don't put Miami in over Notre Dame. Now, I thought Notre Dame was a better team than Miami by the end of the year. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Miami made the national championship game. But that's also why, like, you have to stick with this kind of stuff. You have to stick with what you know. You can't just continue to go after and say, well, we think this team, we think that team. Stick with what you know. And what you know best is who wins in their conference, right?
Yep.
And I think if you have that automatic conference qualifier, conference bid thing, then you're going to see more Big 12 teams go out and play Big 10 teams. You're going to see more Big 10 teams go out and play SEC teams and stuff like that. Now, obviously, TV stuff impacts it as well, but I do think that there would be less of an incentive to not play those games because, unfortunately, like people still think Texas didn't make the playoffs because they lost to Ohio State. I think it was a factor, but I don't think it was why they didn't make the playoffs. You know,
No,
I think you lose to Florida, you still don't make it in. They're still going to be right there next to Vandy if you lose to Florida, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is the thing that, and so we obviously we're both Ohio State fans. I am staking my claim now. I think Ohio State goes 9-3. Like I'm putting it out there. And if they go not, and I think they lose to Texas at Texas. Like I just think and their schedule's brutal. And I'm not going to sit here and pound the table for 9-3 Ohio State to get in the playoff. Because to me, if you want to be in the dance, earn your freaking way in. And this is where I'm going with this. I understand why coaches and why Sark is saying, like Sark is saying that Texas didn't get him because they scheduled Ohio State. I understand it. Here's the thing. If you beat Ohio State, you're in the dance, despite the fact that you lost to a terrible Florida team. And you got I think if they beat Ohio State at Ohio State, yeah.
Okay. But if they don't play Ohio State and say they played Ball State instead,
I think they're on the bubble. They're probably out based on
they're out. I think they're right there next to Vandy still.
Right. So that's my whole thing is like you can't play this game of, well, because we played Ohio State, we didn't get in. No, because you lost to Ohio State and you lost to Florida. And it's going to be the same thing with Ohio State if they lose to Texas at a conference and then lose to USC and Michigan or USC and Oregon, or like you lost too many games. And like it stinks and the schedule disparity stinks, but that's not the problem's not your schedule. The problem is did you play well? Scheduling is a factor. I'm not saying it's not a factor, but I hate this mentality now where it's like, well, I have to craft the schedule just right. And that's going to be our pathway to the playoff. It's stupid. This is not what sports is meant to be about.
Well, and ideally you wouldn't have that because you would have centralized scheduling where everybody gets, a maybe not exactly fair, but a schedule that is nobody would get a super easy schedule or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But then you go into these situations where you don't have centralized scheduling and teams are trying to figure out, okay, how do we get into the tournament? Because just being honest, the committee, they do just rank you based off your record more than anything else. There's a select few that are different every time, but they just rank you based on your record, and it sucks. I don't think it's exactly right, but at the same time, I also think that there probably needs to be more into consideration of home, away, how many weeks do you played in a row, when was your bye week, all that kind of stuff. That's why I was so. Somebody put out a top 10 hardest schedules list. I think it was the Crane and Company people on Twitter earlier, and Northwestern wasn't on it. Like, how are you not going to put Northwestern on it? Northwestern has a bye week in week 2. They face 3 of the top 5 teams in the country away. They go to Ohio State, to Oregon, to Indiana. Their home games, Penn State, Iowa, Illinois. Like, you can spare me with like, oh, well, these Big Ten teams aren't good. Okay, they play the 3 best teams in the Big Ten on the road. But because it's Northwestern, we're just going to say, oh, it doesn't matter. They're not going to win. No, we need to also acknowledge that the toughness of your schedule does matter. Now, it's not going to matter for bowl games or anything like that, obviously. But at the end of the day, I understand what you're saying. You can't lose 3 games and expect to get in. But I also don't think a team that plays nobody all season, and I mean nobody. I'm not saying like an SEC team talking to a Big Ten team. I'm saying nobody, loses 1 game and says, "Yeah, we have a birthright to get into the playoffs." Well,
Totally
do you?
agree. Oh yeah, I totally agree. We're talking about maybe the nuances of again, how should strength of schedule factor in, which is what the SEC folks were screaming about a year ago. And this is the issue with these conversations is the SEC was never fully wrong, right? It's just they wanted to use flawed metrics to prop up strength of schedule even more, which was foolish, and like everybody outside the SEC could see right through it. But there is a reality that you do need to consider strength of schedule, strength of record in all of those things. And like that is going to be a factor both for Ohio State and for Texas, as well as several other teams. But it's a factor. It is not, it can't be the leading reason why.
All right. So last question, and then we'll move on. Who's at fault in this situation? Is it Alabama, Paul Finebaum going after him, or is it Ohio State and the Big Ten? I mean, I talked about it. I talked about it in the last episode when we did this. Like, the Big Ten doesn't want Big Ten teams going outside the conference to play, like SEC teams and stuff like that anymore, because it loses their TV revenue, because you're putting Ohio State on ESPN, and Fox and CBS and NBC are saying, hey, we paid for the Big Ten. Let's see some more Ohio State. Let's see some more Michigan. Let's see some more of these bigger brands on our schedule. And so I don't believe it's just Alabama that's doing this. I think it's probably Ohio State, and I think it's probably the Big Ten as well, saying, yeah, you're not going to play this big game because, greed and the playoffs.
Yeah. I'll go a level up. I actually blame ESPN, Fox, and CBS and the big.
I thought you were going to say the NCAA.
Well, I mean, that's a given.
Them too.
Well, we did say you got one thing right, fix everything else. This is one of the things that they've left broken and on fire. It's a good job, NCAA. But I mean, you said the word greed. I mean, this is the problem. I love Joel Klatt, but if Joel Klatt's going to complain about scheduling imbalance and these bad non-conference games, but then his network is going to pound the table for more Ohio State big noon kickoff games against Ball State or against Grambling State or whoever, so that they can get the big noon spot, they are just as culpable, if not more so, than any of the schools that are involved. So is Alabama and Ohio State culpable? Absolutely. They are absolutely culpable. And as a Buckeye fan, I am frustrated and like Ross Bjork, I'm talking to you right now. Don't let big TV dictate what is right for Ohio State, which is more big games for your fans in your stadium. And that should be what every athletic director is hearing from their fan base, Texas, Florida, SEC, Big Ten, whatever. But so I think they're culpable, but Fox, CBS, ESPN, and their desire for just another dollar is absolutely the thing that's killing this right now. And they should be ashamed of themselves because they're the same ones that are saying, we're so sad that we're missing the big non-conference games in the beginning of the season. Well, you know what? It's kind of your fault. So fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that the Big Ten, it sounds like they want to go to 10 conference games. So I think that would help things. So it's not just like 3, easy cupcake out of conference games, but still it's the aspect of seeing games that you don't always see, right? Seeing the out of conference and stuff like that. I lament it. I understand it. I'm not saying that I don't get why teams don't do it or anything like that, but I do lament it because at the end of the day, it's just not, it's not, not it's not what we want to see. We want to see more of these big games. Now, maybe Tony Petitti would say, I'm giving you more because we're going to go to 10 conference games and we're going to get a 2014 playoff. But, that would just be something new for people to get used to. And I don't know if you've noticed, Zach, but people don't like new. They like what they know.
Yeah.
So,